This is NTV.
No one feels the motherland like we do. So tune in every day at 6 p.m. and Fridays from 11 p.m. for the best in homegrown music. Only on NTV, the station that celebrates local music talent. We know that all music is beautiful, and that's why NTV brings you the catalogue. Every day at 2:15 p.m. with the classics on Monday, reggae on Tuesday, country on Wednesday, Africa on Thursday, and love ballads on Friday.
You're like a dream come true. Just wanna be with you.
The beautiful sound of music only on NTV, your official music station.
The question of Congo.
11 states back a neutral force to police the Rwanda-Congo border.
It is the beginning of a new dawn for the Democratic Republic of Congo as regional leaders meeting in Kampala agree on a neutral force to police the Rwanda-DR Congo border.
Also tonight, it was introduced 6 years ago by President Yoweri Museveni after the MPs pushed him to give them some extra money to contribute to projects in their constituencies. But the ghost of the Constituency Development Fund, even after it was scrapped last year, continues to haunt some legislators.
It is this subject that forms part of our NTV poll tonight, so do have your say.
It's Wednesday night, the 8th of August 2012. A very warm welcome to NTV tonight. First, let's have a look at the rest of the headlines in the news.
Kasese votes. The by-election for woman MP is marred by arrests, low voter turn-up and allegations of malpractice.
I have seen complaints coming from your constituents.
Legislators on the spot. IGG cracks down on lawmakers over constituency development fund.
Also tonight, anti-corruption court charges senior officials in the office of the Prime Minister and remands them to Luzira prison.
A very warm welcome to NTV Tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gabriel Epenu.
And I'm Faith Ariho. Now in our top story tonight, preliminary results coming in from Kasese show that the opposition Forum for Democratic Change candidate Winnie Chiza is leading in the highly contested woman parliamentary by-election.
Two other candidates from the NRM, Rehema Muhindo and DP's Rosemary Katumba, are participating in the election.
Now details of how the elections were conducted will be brought to you later on.
Okay. Now, African leaders from the Great Lakes region have agreed to set up a neutral force in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo to end the security crisis in the area.
Now the heads of state have also established a trust fund to support the thousands of victims of the DRC conflict, in which the Ugandan government has contributed $1 million.
The agreement signed in Kampala marks the close of the two-day summit in which the regional leaders met to discuss ways of ending the escalating violence in eastern Congo.
Now Chris Ochamringa brings us the story.
The agreement, signed by the heads of state, commits them to take up measures of ending the fighting in eastern DRC and impose sanctions against member states that obstruct the process. And to that end, the leaders have set up a subcommittee of defense ministers from 7 of the Great Lakes region countries to draft modalities of the composition and size of the neutral force.
Now the responsibility falls with the ministers for defense of the countries that have been mentioned.
The defense ministers are expected to write a report about the force within 2 weeks and submit it to the regional leaders. The force will have the mandate of fighting the rebel groups operating within eastern DRC, unlike the UN's DRC mission, whose mandate is to protect civilians. The discussions by the heads of state need lots of following up to do. But one of the most concrete things that came out from this meeting was the setting up of a trust fund to support the victims of the humanitarian crisis in the DRC. Now Uganda has already contributed $1 million to that cause. The onslaught of the M23 rebels in eastern DRC caused thousands of people to flee into Uganda and neighboring countries. The violence also created a tense relationship between the DRC's President Joseph Kabila and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame, as reports that Rwanda was backing M23 rebels escalated. But Uganda's Minister of Foreign Affairs says the two leaders have since buried the hatchet.
President Kagame and President Kabila are on talking terms. They are engaging each other. They are speaking on this issue. They would wish this issue to be resolved.
The leaders agreed to meet again in Kampala after 4 weeks to follow up the progress of their commitments. Chris Ochamringa, NTV.
Now 7 members of parliament could face prosecution by the Inspector General of Government for allegedly failing to account for the 10 million shillings given to them for the development of their constituencies. The money, normally given to all MPs under the Constituency Development Fund project, was released in the 8th Parliament but has up to date not been accounted for by some legislators. The accused, however, allege that this is a political plot to which hunt them for their deeds. Jingo Francis reports.
Outspoken lawmakers are panicking after unearthing a plot to prosecute them. It's alleged that Rwemiyaga County MP Theodore Sechikubo, Ndorwa East MP Wilfred Niwagaba, Kibanda County MP Sam Ol Otada, and Buyaga County MP Barnabas Tinkasimire, among others, have had their names forwarded to the IGG for investigations on the Constituency Development Fund. The MPs allegedly failed to account for the 10 million Constituency Development Fund given to them in the 8th Parliament.
The office of the Inspectorate is prone to being used for political persecution.
And the office should not be seen under your care as one that is meant to prosecute for persecution purposes.
But the retired Justice Irene Mulyagonja, the newly appointed ombudsman, confirmed having received complaints against some MPs from the public, but not the president.
I have not heard about a complaint by His Excellency the President about specific members of Parliament. But I will say that I have seen complaints coming from your constituents about Constituency Development Fund. They did not come from His Excellency the President.
And this is where we see bleeding of public resources. I want to quote an example. State House and Presidency.
Mulyagonja, however, insists that she will not be deterred to deal with anybody as long as she receives complaints from the public.
If we receive a complaint from a citizen of Uganda saying we are told that so much has been spent and it is not accounted for and so on and so forth, we shall write to State House and say, can you please explain?
Theodore Sechikubo, Wilfred Niwagaba, Barnabas Tinkasimira and Sam Olotada, among others, have on several occasions criticized President Museveni's method of leadership.
On our records, and he knows where to take his statements.
And by yesterday, they threatened to defeat President Museveni within the NRM party.
No, enough is enough. So we are calling upon our president.
Mulyagonja instead revealed that the president in his letter delivered to her office yesterday wants the IGG to investigate some officials in government.
It comes in writing, and I have one right on my desk, which came yesterday, including 2 complaints.
However, NTV has also established that the president wants the IGG to investigate the newly acquired road equipment from China. The equipment was acquired to upgrade roads in local governments. In a related development, the MP is also alleged that there is a plot to kick out Bukonzo MP Yokasi Bihande from Parliament following a case he lost over CDF money.
Arising from the fact that the owner behind it was convicted.
But the parliamentary spokesperson Helen Kawesa denies knowledge of any letter asking the speaker to take action against Bihande. Bihande is the husband to Kasese woman candidate Winnie Kiza contesting in today's heated Kasese by-elections. Jingo Francis, NTV, Parliament.
Well, it's on this issue that we would like to hear from you on tonight's NTV poll. So we are asking, should the IGG prosecute MPs who fail to account for the Constituency Development Fund? Should the IGG prosecute MPs who fail to account for the Constituency Development Fund?
Well, to participate, text to 87788 your yes or no contribution or answer. Please do include your name and where you are participating from. We will be reading some of them during this bulletin and also at the end, as well as bring you the final poll result then. Moving on, the Anti-Corruption Court Grade 1 Magistrate Emmanuel Baguma today evening remanded to Luzira Prison 4 suspects in connection with the embezzlement of funds in the office of the Prime Minister. Geoffrey Kazinda, Hussein Katuma, Owori Martin and Kezabu Beatrice were charged with forgery, causing financial loss, embezzlement and abuse of office arising from the 168 counts. It is alleged that between the year 2010 and 2011 fraudulently took 361 million shillings from the government coffers. However, today prosecution raised 1 more file out of 48 files pending, and which will also be used to pin other suspected people. They will appear in court tomorrow.
The Commissioner in charge of Disaster and Preparedness, Owori Martin, and the Principal Accounting Officer, Geoffrey Kazinda, in the Prime Minister's office were the first to be brought to the Anti-Corruption Court after they were rearrested last week. At 4 p.m., other suspects were brought in. These include his assistant Beatrice Kezabu and Hussein Katume, petrol station manager in Tinda, and were charged. The 4 appeared before Grade 1 Magistrate Emmanuel Baguma to take plea of 168 counts of forgery, embezzlement, abuse of office, and causing financial loss. It is alleged that between 2010 and 2011, the suspects connived to embezzle over 361 million shillings meant for fuel of cars that were to deliver supplies to Bududa hit by landslides. Mark Dusman Kabenge, the defense lawyer, argued before court that the charge sheet had got some errors that needed
NTV.
Kwene embeera y'abasajja bano
essuubi nga lyakugwamu mama
bana abasajja abanaatera n'okujja kusigiriza ffe ekiro basituleko emiwumbo gy'emmere bagitwale
sogera byange kibanza bana bagambanga ne bagamba bweyagala nkubulira ebyange ja tugende emyanzi
mpulira abanyumya ababeera bakujerega waliko omusawo w'ekinnaasi e South Africa baba bakujerega obituufu
baba banjerega oyo mufere mubbi yennyini yeetaaga miggo
omuntu wa bulijjo tomuzanyirangako abeeranga dormant volcano
bwemba mukkiriza nina takuwa mugiyita
ate takuwa gobeera mugoberezi tolowooza nti muli mulimo oyogerera omusiraamu senga naakubuuza nti katonda yagamba atya
oba oli pasita ng'okyawa olimba obba oyenda olina abakazi basatu please heaven is waiting for you. One day you'll pay and soon your time is out.
Otisa moni.
Sitisa. Nkubulira Yesu talimba.
Ebintu mbimala mulundi gumu. Kati what is
for the Constituency Development Fund, I'll say that again, should the IGG prosecute members of parliament who fail to account for their Constituency Development Fund?
Well, to have your say, text 8778, then yes or no, and followed by your name and where you are texting from. Let's now take a look at some of your comments so far.
Okay, to Mukunde, Paul, you say yes, members of parliament should be prosecuted in order to reduce government expenses in an attempt to recover lost monies.
And then next from Kawohe here says, let IGG investigate them because we are tired of MPs who don't work upon their constituencies.
Okay, our tentative poll result is here. 82% of our respondents so far are saying yes, the IGG should prosecute legislators who misuse the Constituency Development Fund. 8% of you, rather 18% of you are saying no.
Well, stay tuned as we shall be bringing you more comments on tonight's final poll results at the tail end of tonight's newscast.
Okay, well, 12% actually of you are saying no. Moving on to our top story, details in our top story. A number of polling agents from the FDC party are crying foul of harassment and denial of access to the different polling stations that were located within and near the army barracks.
Now, this was early this morning as voting kicked off in Kasese district over the position of the woman representative of the district. However, some NRM officials have denied these claims, arguing that some of the agents from FDC are not properly accredited. Voting started late as most of the polling materials were delivered late to the different polling stations, and also the rain contributed to the low turnout of the most voters that came late. Well, Maurice Ochol has this report from Kasese district.
As early as 5 in the morning, the electoral materials were already being dispatched to the different polling stations. Kasese district has got over 400 polling stations and over 30,000 voters. Voting started late with the disruption of rain in most parts of the district. But still in the morning, we found out in one of the polling stations over 20 kilometers from Kasese town, some of the FDC officials were denied access to this one particular polling station in Chivera where an army barracks is. About 20 kilometers from Kasese town, this is one of the polling stations that one of the agents of the FDC has been blocked from entering.
I came to deploy my agents, 2 of them, Major Varamira and his colleague.
No one has blocked you.
They have blocked me. They blocked me. He's the one who blocked me.
No one has stopped you as a member of parliament of this area to enter here. So it's upon you to enter or you leave.
Yes, we're going to apply by an electoral commissioner that this polling station be cancelled.
The soldiers denied retired Major Ruaramira, arguing that he was going to cause chaos. However, Ruaramira and some other FDC officials told them they were accredited to observe and be agents of the candidates. But the army seemed to overpower the FDC officials, forcing them to retire and leave the place. However, another incident of this nature happened in this polling station of Mpombwe, where the soldiers were preventing civilians from getting access to the polling stations, claiming it was the army specifically to vote from here.
No preventing of anybody who is coming to vote, because this is not a barracks.
At midday at Kazungu polling station in the suburbs of Kasese town, there were chaos as some residents seemed to have got one person whom they claimed had got pre-ticked ballot boxes, driving the whole population wild. Though he managed to escape, they broke his house and searched. This later took the intervention of the police to calm the situation. By 5 in the evening, voting had ended and counting had started. Maurice Ochol, NTV, Kasese.
Now, government has started screening all non-government organizations, focusing especially on those that promote human rights and advocacy. The minister in charge of the Internal Affairs docket, Lerenek, revealed that the move is geared towards identifying organizations that are promoting vices like homosexuality, lesbianism and divisionalism among Ugandans, while claiming to be advocates of human rights. Government warns that these found culpable will face the law, are more likely to awaken the discussion on homosexuality that has since remained in limbo.
The discussion around homosexuality is back, and this time round, government is turning its guns on non-government organizations that promote the vice, hiding under the umbrella of protecting and promoting human rights. Today, Internal Affairs Minister Lerenek revealed that government is investigating non-government organizations that promote moral decadence among Ugandans, hiding behind human rights advocacy.
If somebody comes like an NGO, say now advocacy, human rights, and then the under those cover, they induce certain cultures which are not even acceptable. Some even try to propagate homosexualism and lesbianism. But they cover themselves as children's rights, or they collect those children and induce them into wrong directions. We cannot accept that. That one we are going to fight. Make sure we don't allow them to derail our society, push them into evil.
Onek says that his ministry is already sieving out and conducting checks to weed out any suspected culprits, and that action will be taken soon.
Even your countries, in East African countries, you have those similar institutions who come camouflage and do that. We are now screening them. In Uganda, we are screening them, and we shall ensure that we clean our society a bit from so-called friends within brackets.
The minister made these revelations at the launch of the third meeting of the East African Community Chief of Prisons, where the call to consolidate transformation rather than punishment of prisoners sounded louder. Solomon Serwanja, NTV Tonight.
Let's find out what other stories are making news across Uganda tonight in our news wrap.
A fire has burnt yet another historical site in Buganda Kingdom 2.5 years after Kasubi royal tombs were razed to the ground. Bwanika House on Nagalabi Hill, Wakiso District, caught fire at about 3 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Many Baganda loyalists for Buganda Kingdom flocked to the scene after learning of it. Police says that it has arrested a man identified as Kasingwa Kiza on suspicion of participating in the arson.
One man was arrested at around 4, and he's a resident of Kasenge. Kasenge is quite a distance from here. So we have him. He's trying to help us get some leads, and we want to really interrogate him and find out why he was here, what was he doing.
The Katikiro of Buganda, John Baptist Walusimbi, visited the burnt premises and promised that Buganda will reconstruct the site as soon as possible. The fire comes at a time the kingdom is making final preparations to start the reconstruction of Kasubi royal tombs, which was burnt down in March 2010.
Meanwhile, a police operation to crack down on vehicles in dangerous mechanical condition has left over 40 deregistered. The move comes just after warnings by the inspector of vehicles against the use of such vehicles.
The complaints about accidents, about vehicles breaking down in the middle of the roads and obstructing other road users. We have done an operation today to crack down on those vehicles which we might call dangerous mechanical condition.
However, some drivers blame the condition of their cars on the bad road network in the country.
And really, we have had a number of problems. When you look at, for example, the swarm Kapchora Road, it isn't so that pleasant. So really, this government still has a big burden to do.
Meanwhile, Peter Makumbi, Katoka Jubi's traditional killer and also a convicted killer, was picked up yesterday from his shrine in Kayuji village and taken to Masaka Central Police Station. He is suspected of killing a casual laborer at his shrine, Bosco Tumwine. Tumwine's body was found dumped at a farm in Kayuji village with bruises on the head, and he was lying on his jacket. Makumbi denied the allegations, saying the deceased could have died as a result of excessive drinking.
We cannot
talk much about the alcohol for the meantime because our doctors showed us through his postmortem that there has been an element of torture.
The Southern Region Police spokesperson Noah Serunjoji says Makumbi could be prosecuted. Now, Somalia appears to be on a mission to attain total peace. Reconstruction is underway, and thousands of Somalis in the diaspora are returning by road, air and sea. Now, despite the occasional gunfire in the capital Mogadishu, the people are showing a lot of resilience and determination to rebuild their country. In this week's NTV Connect, Patrick Kamara follows Hassan Shire, a Somali national, as he returns to his home in Mogadishu after a 20-year absence.
He's saying, where's your hair?
It is an emotional return for Hassan Shire to the land of his birth. Shire has spent the last 20 years oscillating between Uganda, Canada and Europe. The last 2 decades have also made him a global citizen and a human rights activist. In the last 20 years, he has managed to reach Mogadishu twice, but not to his exact home. However, today is going to be the day, security permitting, when he will be able to finally touch base with his people who have been holding fort in the district of Shangani. We touched down at Adeni Duli International Airport in Mogadishu on a bright and sunny Monday morning. The airport is busy with over 18 flights landing every day. The Somalis, it appears, are coming back and from all corners of the world. We hop into one of these AMISOM battle wagons with Hassan as we head for Hotel Oruba, now a shadow of its former self. Located on the seashore, this former 5-star hotel is now in total ruins. It has absorbed all manner of mortar bombs, but still one can see traces of its former glamour. It's now the tactical base for the Sector 9 AMISOM commander, Colonel Stefano Mugerwa, the man whose forces liberated Shangani and the entire Middle Shabelle region. Stepping out on what used to be a balcony, the beauty of the shores are extraordinary. Hassan wants to capture every moment through his camera so he can show his family back in Canada his home. In the 1950s and the 1960s, Mogadishu city was comparable to the French Riviera, so beautiful and so magnificent. But look what the ruin it is now today. The battle to capture Uruba Hotel here in Shangani district was fought street by street, house by house, corridor by corridor, and yes, room by room. Hassan tells me that his home is just a few meters away, but still AMISOM has to assess the route before giving us the green light.
Thank you very much, guys. Very good.
Back into our armored vehicles with Hassan in the co-driver seat, we head deep into Shangani. You could see him on tension as we get closer. He remembers every street, every house and office block. This city was clearly glamorous before war tore it apart. The Italian colonialists had showcased their architectural prowess here in Mogadishu. Fine buildings with marble stones define their streets. We cautiously walked to the cathedral. It was bombarded, but it still stands. Hassan's home is not far from here, and after 5 minutes drive, we are at his gate.
He's saying, where's your hair? You are still young.
He is unbelievably lucky. Miraculously, his home was never bombed nor looted. The Hassans seem to have been men of influence. It is easy to forget, after all, that this was an affluent neighborhood.
Come in. Yeah, I was saying.
This is Hassan.
He was fighting in the field.
Back home. I gather that his grandfather was a chief judge in the colonial government.
My goodness. Thank you very much, really, for keeping everything, yeah?
After the tour of Hassan Shire's home, we head for official business at the Safari Hotel in the heart of Mogadishu. But before that, he captures one final photography for posterity purposes with his housekeeper. AFISO, a human rights organization, is being launched today. They want to campaign for clean leadership in Somalia. Or, to borrow their words, shed a light on wrongdoers so that they are not voted into the next government. Again here, you can see that the Somalis are desperately trying to rebuild their city. Safari Hotel is a case in point. Ahmed Daib is a Somali national that has lived in Washington, D.C. for 30 years. But he is back. I asked him if he's thinking of joining the presidential race.
That's a good question. I am not running for time being as a president of Somalia. But you never know. You will never know. If the people in Somalia come to me and say, Daib, we need you to run as the president, I didn't let him down.
We are told that a day before this conference, a popular comedian had been assassinated. People may look happy, but there's also an underlying tension that continues to simmer. We leave this event and head to General Kahil Police Academy, where a constitution-making process was underway. The conference attracted over 800 delegates from across the country, including Puntland and Somaliland.
People came from those areas, and the areas that are newly liberated in Juba and Gedo, central Somalia, Hiran. We sent planes, chartered planes, and we ferried some people out from there. Puntland, Somaliland, they're well represented.
Somalia is clearly on the move. Sheikh Sharif is in charge with the help of AMSOM forces, the Somalia National Army, and the Special Forces. As all attention now turns towards rebuilding Somalia and restoring peace and stability to the war-torn streets, for most people here, there's now clearly no turning back. I'm Patrick Kamara, NTV, Mogadishu.
Patrick Kamara, and a story of a country and its people making strides forward after decades of war. Thank you very much. We'll go for a break right now, but coming up is NTV Business with Malcolm Musime. Do stay with us.
I personally went to Honorable Bako's office, I don't know how many times, to report cases of corruption in Uyam, Lodale in particular. He just kept quiet, not even a courtesy of writing. I wrote to his office, not even a courtesy of replying.
Welcome to Abdu.
This is NTV.
Ideally, we all have the right to express our opinions and views truthfully and openly.
Atele lom tugenda katongole mbukasam.
Kampala bwerere mwansomu the bus. The discussion is still going on in the bus.
Tulino kugumira challenges ezimu gwe tuba tulino goba abatembeyi mwami lukwaga agumaga abatembeyi mugende no mbadde ndala kunyonyola mukulu kati tuulirize mwami natudde ku kira mbadde ndala kunyonyola omwami yagambye nti meya lukwago ye meya omutuufu
gavumenti ekutte lukwago emunyigira mu nsonga takyekyusa.
Welcome back to minibus kyogereko.
Singa omusajja abankwana nga njagala sifa ku kya ssente wabula nfa ku mbeera yeyisa
alimba ono
This is minibus
kyogereko.
Kwera embeera y'abasajja bano
essuubi nga lyakuggwamu mama.
Bano abasajja abanaatera n'okujja kusigiriza ffe ekiro basituleko emiwumbo gy'emmere bagitwale.
Sogera byange kibanza bana bagamba nga bagamba ne bwagala nkubulira ebyange jatugende emyanzi.
Mpulira banyumya babeera bakujerega waliko omusawo w'ekinnansi. South Africa baba bakujerega ebituufu
Baba banjerega. Oyo mufere mubbi yennyini yeetaaga miggo.
Omuntu wa bulijjo tomuzannyirangako abeeranga dormant volcano.
Bwemba mukkiriza nina takuwa mugiyita
ate takuwa gobeera mugoberezi tolowooza nti buli mulimo oyogerera omusiraamu senga naakubuuza nti Katonda yagamba atya.
Oba oli pasita ng'okyawa olimba obba oyenda olina abakazi basatu. Please, heaven is waiting for you. One day you'll pay and soon your time is out.
Otiisa mmoni
sitiisa nkubuulira Yesu talimba
ebintu mbimala mulundi gumu kati what I love peace.
Gwokola byo
wegase n'omusajja mutwale mabi.
Kwera embeera y'abasajja bano
essuubi nga lyakuggwamu mama.
Very warm welcome to NTV Business Night, Malcolm Sime. Now, the business community is echoing fresh demands for the financial institutions to bring down the lending rates to reflect the falling central bank benchmark rate and inflation. The chairman of Kampala City Traders Association, Evarist Kayondo, says Bank of Uganda should put pressure on commercial banks to respond, adding that the prevailing interest rates are hurting businesses.
Purchasing power in the economy remains low even within this last quarter of the business year, a development that the local business fraternity says is made worse by the still high bank charges.
But the cost of financing our businesses is so high, the cost of investment is so high, and we are finding it very difficult to run these businesses.
With inflation steadily down as well as the central bank rate, Kampala City Traders are asking Bank of Uganda to exert a little more pressure on banks to lower their prime lending rates.
At the end of the day, we need the regulator to come up and pronounce herself that please look here, you commercial banks, you must reduce your interest rate. Now the CBR is coming down.
However, cross-sectional financial institutions are maintaining that running contracts with some of the external funding sources has implications on what they should adjust.
We are closely monitoring the trends right now, and very shortly we'll be reducing the prime lending rate, again in line with market conditions. But one thing we have to look at is that even when the interest rates or the inflation goes down, the reduction in interest rates may not be as drastic immediately, because even the banks borrowed money when the interest rates were higher, and we are locked in certain contracts which are now running off.
A week ago, the industry regulator cut down its central bank rate from 19% to 17%.
I will do whatever it takes to press on the commercial banks to reflect the reduction in CBR in their lending rates.
The CBR should often determine the trends at which prime lending rates in the market are pegged. Raina Ojan, NTV Business.
Now, the intent of power distribution company Umeme to offer some of its shares to the public through listing on the Uganda Securities Exchange will help enrich the variety of products on the market. According to Uganda Securities Exchange Chief Executive Officer Joseph Shtamirike, the coming on board of Umeme will reduce the risk exposure on the bounce, which is currently dominated by banks. Samuel Setumba was there.
When the Uganda Securities Exchange is dominated by a sector like banks, there's a risk that if such a sector gets a hit from today's economic turbulences, the whole exchange could be damaged. This is why the proposed listing of Umeme from the power sector on the exchange, expected in September, is welcome.
It's a real plus to have a company like Umeme, which comes from the utility sector, and it has a completely different characteristics from say the companies that are already listed on USE. Banks will behave one way because of interest rates, and so we need to have that mix of companies.
This is the first listing from a locally incorporated company that is purely non-governmental and not a government divestiture. The proponents assert that Ugandans will get the first chance to be part of a wholly foreign-owned company, who in this case is owned by actors.
It will allow consumers out there and members of the public to participate in Umeme, not as consumers, but as shareholders of Umeme.
When people steal the inputs into electricity distribution, people steal cables and people steal power. If he's stealing power, he's stealing your profit.
The success of the Umeme listing could benefit from the momentum of the recovery of the market, also against the background of falling returns from government treasury bills and bonds, which should attract investors to the shares market. Samuel Setumba, NTV Business.
Now, in the financial markets, the shilling has remained relatively steady against the dollar, helped by an improvement in inflows. We have more in the financial market report coming up.
All vehicles are required to revalidate their registration using our new online module and get a new logbook. All newly imported vehicles will also be registered online using this new online module. Get out of the line and get online. vehicles are required to revalidate their registration using our new online module and get a new logbook. All newly imported vehicles will also be registered online using this new online module. Get out of the line and get online.
Finally, on NTV Business tonight, as the Uganda Revenue Authority struggles to widen the tax net, it says online payment systems are turning out to be efficient, fetching nearly 100 billion shillings last financial year alone. The tax body also reveals that micro and small enterprises are now the major target of the online platform. NTV's Reno John was there.
Millions of eligible individuals and institutional taxpayers across the country remain out of the tax bracket, a scenario that the Uganda Revenue Authority believes can be reversed via promoting online payment systems.
We've had a challenge with this group. How do we deal with somebody out in the village, that gentleman you mentioned, who wants the 200,000 for the son? That is a potential taxpayer, but he doesn't have the capacity to go and use these e-services that we offer.
With collections via online transactions contributing almost 100 billion shillings within the last year alone, the tax body now wants utility firms and commercial banks to support revenue collection through information technology platforms.
We discovered that we didn't need to do this. The private sector has people who are very accomplished at reaching hard to reach people. We've got the mobile telecom companies, which are experts at putting phones in people's pockets no matter how far they are, even on the lakes. And then the bankers, you are experts at dealing with money.
These developments were disclosed this afternoon at the launch of a wide range of mobile banking services by DFCU, covering transfer funds and taxes, water and electricity, among other utilities, through the mobile network. Reina Ojan, NTV Business.
That's all we had for you from the business desk. Now we're going for just a short break. When we come back, Joel Kamadi will be bringing us the sports. Side lamps with energy savers instead of overhead lights.
Emese yali ku the last piece of a jambia yali muhadi wa yo no bloody way holy moly.
We've just met, how can I be your friend? Mr. Rajmond, okuzimba nyumba nga kintu kizibu nnyo banange mugumire mu bupangisa. Come.
I'm called Olar Oton. There's no English name, just like resistance, Yakazol.
Yeah, blame you. You have option of getting international husband. Why do you get it?
You time. I'm knocking. Emese yali ku the last.
This is NTV.
Fieldwork has been defined by different scholars. Some think it is an art.
These are the blood types that are in human beings. We have A.
When a chemical reaction takes place, it involves two things.
We are given a straight line that has been denoted by 2x minus y is equal to 6.
This is NTV.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Sport. I am Joel Kamadi. Now Moses Kipsiro qualified for the final of the men's 5,000 meters scheduled for Saturday as one of the fastest losers of the combined two heats. And Sally Pearson delivered Australia's first athletics gold medal of the London Olympics with a dramatic victory in the 100-meter hurdles. Kipsiro finished 7th in 13 minutes 17 seconds in Heat 2 to make it to Saturday's final. Compatriots Abraham Kiplimo, also in Heat 2, finished 15th, and Geoffrey Kusuro in Heat 1 came 19th, automatically being eliminated from the competition. The top 5 in the 2 heats and those with the best 5 times qualified for the final. Kipsiro's time of 13 minutes 17 seconds was better than the time of Heat 1 winner, Azerbaijan's Ibrahimov Hale of 13 minutes 25 seconds. Uganda now only has 2 medal hopefuls who are left at the London 2012 Olympics, Kipsiro in the 5,000 meters final, and marathon runner Stephen Kiprotich, who runs on the final day when the games come to a close on Sunday. Sally Pearson asserted a dominance in the women's 100 meters hurdles by winning Australia's first track and field gold of the 2012 Games. Pearson, the reigning world champion, set a new Olympic record time of 12.35 seconds, narrowly beating defending champion Dawn Harper of the United States. China's Liu Zhang failed to finish a race in his second consecutive Olympics after he fell over the first hurdle in the 110-meter event. Zhang limped out at the starting line in front of his home crowd 4 years ago in Beijing with an Achilles problem, and the heat favorite fell hard at the first obstacle in the race. With shades of 2008, Zhang, one of the gold medal favorites, crashed into the first hurdle, aggravating an already weakened Achilles, and was eliminated from the race. Brazil stayed on course for the elusive Olympic gold medal, ending South Korea's brave challenge in front of a full house at Old Trafford to set up a Wembley final against Mexico on Saturday. 2 goals from Leandro Damião helped a Neymar-inspired Brazil to keep up the impressive record of scoring 3 times in all 5 games at London 2012. Now, Uganda Hippos officials will have to cope with the travel fatigue ahead of the second leg of the Africa Youth Qualifiers scheduled for Saturday this week. Despite this, officials are set to ensure that FIFA rules are applied and that the team returns home with a result good enough for the youngsters to advance to the next stage. Alfred Odong reports.
Uganda Hippos are facing fears of suffering from fatigue in the second leg of the Under-20 Africa qualifiers as they play 600 kilometers away from the Ghanaian capital, Accra. The team flies out to Kenya tonight before connecting to Accra, where they will have to travel to Tamale Stadium for the game on Saturday. Officials with a lot of suspicion on the choice of the ground have however voted to defend their 3-1 lead secured in Kampala 2 weeks ago.
Good training, the sessions was quite good. The players okay, no one is injured. I think we are going to travel well. When we reach there, I think we shall get the results.
Well, we are aware that from Accra we are going to travel like 600 kilometers, but we can't take a bus. Of course, we are going to use a plane, maybe the domestic one, because the CAF Zero says after maybe kilometers when they are over 200, you can't travel by road.
A draw or at worst a 1-0 loss will guarantee Uganda Hippos a place in the last round of the 2013 Africa Youth Qualifiers, whose final will be played in Algeria. The winners face Morocco, 4-0 winners over Gambia in the first leg, and have advanced before playing away after their opponents withdrew citing financial constraints. This is the last training session for the Uganda Hippos before they depart for Accra, where they will again be required to cover a distance of 600 kilometers to Tamale, where they play the Black Satellites of Ghana. Alfred Odong, NTV Sport.
Alfred Odong with that report. Finally, Buganda and Kitara regions are the first teams to be eliminated in the ongoing Inter-Regional Football Championships going on in Arua. These 2 teams have already lost their first 2 games of the 3 to be played in the preliminary round. The annual competition had 4 games played today, with Buganda team registering their consecutive loss after faltering against Kampala by 2-1. Kitara lost by 2-0 to Western Region to join Buganda Region as the first teams to bow out of the event at the group stage. Northeast and Eastern Regions settled for a goalless draw as Mid-North fell to West Nile by 2-0. The organizers, however, have the task of clearing petitions which have been filed by Eastern and Mid-North regions against Northeast and West Nile for allegedly using prohibited big league players. The competition continues with the final group stages tomorrow. And that wraps up NTV Sport for tonight. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Joel Kamari. Well, let's have a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Okay, let's go back to tonight's NTV poll. We asked you earlier, should the IGG prosecute MPs who failed to account for the Constituency Development Fund? The final poll result is out. 81% of our respondents say yes, they should be prosecuted, while 19% of you say no.
Well, we thank you so much for all your comments tonight. Let's now sample some of them.
Okay, Ventorino or Tor, you say the CDF is a public fund and it is required by law that all who are entrusted with it account for it. Failure by anyone constitutes a commission of an offense, and therefore the IGG must, without fear or favor, carry out its mandate or her mandate of prosecuting the MPs concerned. In fact, they should be asking the questions that they only act when prompted by public opinion, not by sense of dedicated duty.
And Karubanga from Padey district here says, if any MPs are found guilty of committing a crime, they must be held before the justice.
Okay, Bob Ogang, you say yes, nobody is above the law. They should be prosecuted since their role is to bring services nearer to the people, not embezzle funds meant for them.
And Chiwana from here in Kampala simply says MPs should pay if not taken to Luzira.
Okay, thank you so much for all of your contributions. We appreciate them. NTV poll returns tomorrow.
Well, we thank you so much for watching. I am Faith Eriho.
And I'm Gabriel Lepenu. Join me later on for NTV Late Night. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
This is NTV.
Fieldwork has been defined by different scholars. Some think it is an art.
These are the blood types that are in human beings. We have A.
When a chemical reaction takes place, it involves two things.
We are given a straight line that has been denoted by 2x minus y is equal to 6. Fieldwork has been defined by different scholars. Some think it is an art.
These are the blood types that are in human beings. We have A.
When a chemical reaction takes place, it involves two things.
We are given